Hello everyone, I'm here with Paul Cheon and we are going to get into the world of blue-red spells. Now remember, when you play Constructed, you can play every single card the same as your favorite player. In Limited, not so much, but just because you can't get the exact 22 or 23 doesn't mean you're not trying to do exactly the same thing, Paul.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is actually kind of one of the decks that I wanted to see because we didn't see any of it day one in kind of the feature match tables. The blue-red spells deck, I talked to Marshall Sutcliffe. He was really, really high on this archetype. A lot of pros also seem to think this is one of the better archetypes to draft. And then we had Paulo Vitor Dama da Rosa actually pulling away and beating Seth Manfield's very, very impressive zombie deck.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about, just give us the overview, what is blue-red all about?
Yeah. So this is actually a little bit different than the traditional blue-red decks of the past. In triple Amonkhet, what you're looking to do is kind of draft a more defensive style deck with some payoff cards. The current version of blue-red is looking to be aggressive. It's a tempo deck. You have a lot of these great 2-drop prowess cards that care about spells, and you use cards like Unsummon to just kind of like tempo your opponent out and just kill them.
Care about spells. 3 words to live by in blue-red. So let's look in the deck that we put together. Now the way we did this, we just asked a bunch of players, give us a good-ish deck. This is not the dream, this is just a solid, respectable 2-1, maybe sometimes it 3-0's deck. So here are the cards that want you to have spells. Couple of Spellweaver Eternal, prowess, so of course it wants you to have spells. Firebrand Archer, triggers off non-creature spells, point to the opposition. Then you've got the 2 gold cards, one from each set. Bloodwater Entity, again, prowess, gets a card back. Enigma Drake, of course, from Amonkhet. And your super standard, real basic Thorned Moloch. Every blue-red deck wants one of these.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have all these prowess cards. Again, looking back, Enigma Drake, payoff card for being in spells. But now you're looking at the 2 drops in the format, right? None of these cards are defensive. You have Firebrand Archer. Every time you play a spell, you deal damage to your opponent. Spellweaver Eternal, prowess, and Afflict 2. These cards are really, really aggressively costed. So now the blue-red deck, you have 2 premium 2-drops in your Spells Matter decks. And then even Thorned Moloch, which is actually very, very good. It's almost impossible to block. If you're playing against blue-red and you're like, all right, attack you with my 2/2 First Striker, what do you want to do? Play a spell. It just makes it really, really difficult for the opponent. So yeah, the thing is, a lot of these cards, people don't fight over it. You get Firebrand Archers quite late because
no one else wants them.
Exactly, and that's the payoff because you get to play blue-red. Firebrand Archer is one of those cards. It's kind of like a blue-red split card. You only get it if you're blue-red.
Right, and the way they do that, and you'll know this as a game designer, it's by putting just 1 toughness, because you've got all sorts of 2/2s for 1 in a red or 1 in a blue. So by shaving off the toughness, it makes it much less desirable for anyone who doesn't want the text box that says when you trigger like this, you got to do something. All right, so they're the cards that want spells. Let's go to the curve then. So we've still got, of course, our 2 Spellweaver Eternals, a couple of Firebrand Archers. We add a Battlefield Scavenger. Does this deck want to get going fast?
Absolutely. Again, the blue-red spells deck, no longer a control deck. It is a tempo deck. You want all the aggressive 2-drops, and you want to take them highly. Spellweaver Eternal, Firebrand Archer, Battlefield Scavenger, curve filler. But again, you want to curve out, and the thing is, Spellweaver Eternal, if you can just chip your opponent down with cards like Firebrand Archer, it's just like impossible to block too, because what are you going to do? Block, I guess. You play a spell, we trade, and you still take 2 damage. So it's
and if it's something like Kindle of Fury, you don't even get the trade. You
exactly.
just get your dude killed. Let's look at the 3 drops then. Wow, stack of them here. So we already saw our Bloodwater Entity and our Enigma Drake and the Thorn Moloch that care about having spells. We've rounded them out with a Kenra Scrapper, Aerial Guide, your Windrake of the format, and an Eternal of Harsh Truths. But again, Afflict 2, a lot of damage printed onto the card.
Absolutely, and again, if you look at the 3-drops that you want to play in this kind of blue-red Spells Matter decks, they're all very aggressive. Aerial Guide gives these creatures 2 mana, 2/1, not really good at attacking, right? But in combination with the Aerial Guide, you get to kind of fly over and get in for the last few points of damage. And Kenra Scrapper, just a fantastic 3-drop, 3 mana, 2/3 menace, already a pretty good rate. But the fact that you can exert it for even more damage just makes this deck that much more impressive.
And we'll take a moment to register that our 3 favorite words in Magic. Draw a card. There it is on Intel of Harsh Truths.
Absolutely.
All right, curve at 4. What have we got? Frontline Devastator, Afflict 2, and of course it gets huge. Starts as a 3/3, but can easily be a 5/3 as soon as you untap, potentially even more. And this is this the best uncommon in the set?
Yes, I believe
Yeah?
so. Yeah, this card is great. You know, it's not too hard to pick up deserts, right? You have 2 full packs of it, and the deserts are high picks anyways because you're looking to cycle. And yeah, the thing is, this card is so powerful, it even makes me want to play colorless deserts, which actively hurt your mana base because, you know, you get a Sand Strangler going, it just gives you such a huge tempo boost, and that's exactly what this deck wants to do. 2-drop, 3-drop, Sand Strangler. Not a lot of decks can actually keep up with that kind of start.
All right, let's go to 5 and see where we go. So we've rounded out the deck with a Gilded Ceradon and then Ominous Sphinx, the 4/4 flyer, which, you know, it has some other text on, which in this deck we're not going to use very often. In a way, that's more if it belongs to a blue-black deck.
Right.
But we still like 4/4 flyers for 5 in pretty much any deck.
Yeah, and the thing is, so if you notice here, all the kind of spells matter payoffs are in the 2 and 3 mana slot, right? Traditionally, spells matter decks, you know, kind of look at the top end of the curve for the big payoff, but here, these cards are just the aggressive creatures. There's not a lot of payoffs here, and if you look, you know, you're looking at Firebrand Archer and Spellweaver Eternal, you're like, okay, well, how am I supposed to build my spells matter deck? Well, it kind of builds itself. I want to be aggressive, and then at the top end, I'm just going to take just the best aggressive creatures that I can find.
Okay, so we've got 15 creatures on the board there. Paul's saying that it's basically from 3 down that's important. Let's start adding our spells into the deck, see where they fall on the curve. Magma Spray and Unsummon. Now, we're not necessarily, indeed, we want not to play those on turn 1. We want those to be part of our turn 4 plan. Play one of those and a 3-drop, something like that?
Cheap instant speed interaction is just insane in this deck. I mean, Magma Spray is already what we like to call mythic common. Every single deck is going to take it. You're not going to really get one all that often, so really happy to get that card. But the card that's really impressed me, just in almost any deck, but especially this deck, is Unsummon. The reason being is, you know, you're living in a world where people are still trying to put, I mean, you only have 1 pack of it, people are still trying to put cartouches on their creature, you have cheap interaction, triggers prowess again at instant speed, and we're also living in a world with Embalm and Eternalize. And, you know, people are spending 6 mana to make a 4/4, and you're just like, boop, get your guy.
A 4/4 token.
A 4/4
That's
token.
the important word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get the creature, and you get to trigger all your spells matter cards.
Okay, where do we go next on the curve? At 2, wow. So that's Abrade removal, Blur of Blades removal, Unquenchable Thirst removal, and a strategic planning. Now, is that a card you're happy to have in the deck, or a card you're forced to have in the deck because of what the deck is trying to do?
Yeah, I'm not like actively looking to take cards like Strategic Plan, but sometimes you're just gonna want cards to be able to trigger your prowess, so you're gonna play it. You know, as we saw in Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa's draft, he had 3 copies of Crash Through in his deck, just as a 1-mana spell to trigger all your spells matter cards.
Okay, and we go to 3. We've just got 1 open fire because you're not going to get many of them. On we go. Let's see, at 4, Puncturing Blow. Great to have the word exile on that because sometimes people open gods.
Yeah, and it also gets the Embalm and Eternalized creatures as well.
So there we are, 2, 6, 7, 8, that's 23. So one more. We might as well get a little bit greedy with our Inferno Jet here.
Right, and that's the thing. Normally in blue-red spells in a control deck, you don't really want a card like this. But again, this deck is aggressive. Inferno Jet is the exact kind of finisher that you want for these decks.
All right, so let's wrap it all up into the package. Here's the deck. And just look, the important thing, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of our 24 cards after the 3-drop. Everything else happens right here, all the action in the early turns. And then just in terms of lands, we've given ourselves 16. We've been a little bit...
Oh, Ramunap Ruins just for value? Why not?
Just why not? But you're going to always be able to get maybe a Desert of the Mindful and the Fervent. So overall, get yourself on the board with your 2 and 3s, get things out of the way, make blocking hard for them, afflict them to death. Blue-red spells. Great stuff. Paul Cheon, Rich Hagen here at the Tournament Centre.